Call to order, Kathleen Allen. Here. Brian Chetney.
Here.
Tom Chapa. Heather Del Conte.
Here.
Brandon Legault.
Here.
Linda Serena.
Here.
Samuel Tripp.
Here.
And Roomba Kawaja.
Here.
If you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everyone could remain standing just to join me in a moment of silence for Joe Donovan. He was a teacher, counselor, and principal at Kingsford Park School. And also Larry Wink just passed away, principal at Hastings Mallory School. Thank you. At this time, we'll move to the floor to the public. I have Roberta France and Heather I'm sorry. If you would just state your name and address for us and speak to the board, please.
Peter and Friends, 1 Mary Street, Oswego.
Heather Figures, 1 Mary Street.
On October 31st, there was a Halloween party / parade at Fitzhugh Elementary. Parents were supposed to be allowed to come. That was if it was outside. I got to the door the morning of the party and I just was double checking. I said, hey, can parents come to this? And the lady at the door said, she goes, no, it's raining. It's going to be inside, so no parents are allowed. I said, that's not really fair. Why is that? I said, every other school I've ever known, parents are allowed to come even if it's indoors. And she said, she looked at me, and I'm not going to say who the lady was. She goes, probably the office staff. And I said, oh, okay. So I tabled it for a minute. Now you have to understand, I need to preface this by the fact that my 6-year-old was counting on me walking up to school and being there. And when she found out that I was not going to be able to go, she was sobbing in tears. Not the fake cry that a kid that wants their way. She was sobbing because she was sad. So that bothered me. I didn't bother to call the principal because in the process I had gone into the office and I said to one of the ladies that works in the office, I don't recall, if you're familiar with Fitzhugh, she's the lady that sits to the right. She's got blondish hair, 50-ish. And I said, why can't we come today? She goes, well, it's inside. And I said, that means nothing. I said, why is that a problem? She goes, well, we would have to sign all these people in. And I said, that's your job. That's what other schools do. She goes, well, you're going to have to call the principal. I didn't bother calling the principal. I called the superintendent's office. I spoke to his assistant, I don't know what the term is, receptionist assistant, whoever answered the phone, told her what had happened. And she said she would pass the information along to the superintendent and he would probably call me. I never received a call. Consequently, we decided to come to the board meeting because when we called the school that day for something, I don't remember what it was, on October 31st, there was a snarky little add-on to the message of the day saying, and parents aren't allowed because it's a safety issue. That's a crock. There is no safety issue having adults in the building that are the parents of these children. If you can't control it, that's on you because you don't know your job, basically. I have 2 older kids that have gone to other schools. We have her 14-year-old. No other school that I've seen has done this. In the process, when I was speaking to the person in the superintendent's office today to find out about the board meeting tonight, she said, well, would you like me to have an administrator call you? And I said, I thought it was going to be somebody from the board or something. And I said, well, okay. I said, we're probably still going to go to the meeting. Well, why don't I have an administrator call you? I said, well, all right, maybe that, Turns out the administrator that called me was the principal of the school. And she started, I understand you still have some concerns about the situation with Halloween. I said, yes, I do. I said it was absolutely ridiculous that parents weren't allowed. I said, no, again, I use the frame of reference that I have with other school systems. I said, no other school that I've ever been involved with has done this. And she goes, well, that's not true. Minetto did it. And at that point, I just hung up because I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. I'm not going to get into something that quite obviously the person who made that decision is going to defend their decision even though it was wrong. So I find it unacceptable that you're not allowed into the school for certain events. Things like classroom parties, those sorts of things, I get it. But what it boiled down to me was what the receptionist at Fitzhugh said, well, we'd have to sign these people in. It was laziness. There was no safety issue. She works at the school in Mexico and said she'd be happy to help. If they can't figure out how to make it work, she'd be happy to sit with somebody and say, look, this
I've
is
worked
what
at
they...
multiple different elementary schools and just how
Yeah.
other schools have done it in the past. I would be willing to share what other schools have done if it would help with getting the parents in quicker so they didn't all have to sign in that day. So I know it's a larger school, so I would have no issue working with them.
And I really don't like being blindsided with a phone call from the person that made the decision in the first place to sort of try and keep it there and not have it come to you guys. That's what it seemed like to me. That's all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Then next on the agenda is Jim McKenzie, James McKenzie, excuse me.
Switched it up. Well, I wrote something, I put James on here, so I figured I'd put James on there. Jim McKenzie, 26 Lakeview Drive. So come here and talk to you about a bit about artificial turf again. So just a bit of a background on the history of me, trying to communicate these concerns. Started back with a February 16th meeting that I was gracious enough that the superintendent and his staff met with me on a couple things which I first raised this concern. And to be honest, when I raised it, I wasn't very happy with it, only because the concerns were known. But for 500 studies that there was a problem, there's 500 studies that are not. And when we're talking about possible problems being carcinogens, environmental toxicants, coin flip doesn't seem settling to me. So I shared in April 9th with the board. I sent an email to all the board members, expressing my concerns, asking to meet and talk. And then for April, May, June, July, September, and October, I had more emails with one or more members of the group. I took August off, it seems. I looked back. Family time. November 6th, the Facilities Committee was gracious enough to meet with me, Mr. Chiappa, Mr. Tripp, Mrs. Serino, along with Mrs. Squires, and a couple developers. And so I do appreciate that opportunity to talk a little bit more. A few things I'd like to share with the board that I learned beyond what I've already talked to you about. One is that I found out that 100-year rain for Oswego is 4 inches in 24 hours. And if I remember correctly, the field that they're proposing to build is based on a 50-year storm, not a 100-year storm, so it's less than that. As a reference, the 500-year storm was 8 inches. And as we commented on at that meeting, even though the 100-year rain, which this is not built to really take, is 4 inches in 24 hours, we can all remember only a few months ago where we had 7 inches in 4 hours. So that is a concern mainly because artificial turf doesn't absorb water like natural grass does. And so what it does is it will run off into either the collection bin or directly off the field if that becomes saturated. One of the issues that I learned is also that the city sewers are kind of clogged up. And so there could be a possible concern with how that outflow comes through. And I'm hoping to speak with the mayor at some time about that aspect of it. I know he met with the board members, so I know he's aware of that. Something I was a little disheartened about is that the project decisions need to be made soon for a summer 2020 build, which, given my February original talk and only meeting 2 weeks ago, honestly, that's a little frustrating, but okay, I'll move on. What's unchanged and unchallenged by any of the meetings that I've had so far is that crumb tire rubber, which is what is the supposed infill that the board and administration is currently planning on. The tire crumb rubber contain toxicants that are released into the environment, all right, and that we do not know their possible environmental and human health impacts. Those studies are still being done. We don't know. But they're very well likely that they are, because of the nature of these toxicants, heavy metals. To give you background, I know some of you know, but there's more people around. I've been studying heavy metals in children for 13 years now. I've been funded by the National Institute of Health to do that. I've studied mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic. I also study environmental toxicants like PCBs out in the lake trout, out in Lake Ontario. This is what I do for my research. So I'm well versed in the background. I can't tell you it's going to cause cancer to everybody who plays on there. I'm not going to say that. The data doesn't support it. But we don't know what these toxicants can do. We know they're there. We also know that there are alternatives. So, as part of that meeting and knowing that these decisions had to come up soon, I started a petition. And the petition reads to the Oswego City School Board and Administration. It is a petition from the citizens of the Oswego City School District. To quote, the undersigned petitioners believe that the 2018 project should not include artificial turf that has crumb tire rubber infill, which contains known toxicants to humans and the environment. The undersigned petitioners therefore ask the board and administration to instead use either artificial turf that does not contain toxicants or real natural grass. There were 49 signatures on here. 39 of them are members of our district. 2 are from Fulton, but they were really adamant to sign it, so I didn't have them stop. But I made sure they marked Fulton on there. All right, just so you know, not to skid anything by, I marked Fulton on there. All right, I'm hoping 41. You know, that's, I don't know what kind of number it is in these kinds of things. This is my first foray into these events. I do know that everybody I talked to was open to this. Most of them wanted real grass, to be honest with you, to throw that out there. I don't know where the future comes. I do know that I have people at homeschool associations and environmental groups that would like to talk more about this. And until I hear otherwise, I'm going to continue to advocate for an organic, more natural solution that isn't going to contribute harm to our environment. I do have the petition here and my notes to be submitted for the record. Sorry, I also have, if you may, I'd like to pass this to our student representative here. I appreciate the fact that you come and convey things from the student's point of view here, but I would also hope that if you are interested and you think students would be interested, that it's a two-way dialogue, that you share some of these concerns that are here. You have the notes here, you have my contact information, that's my CV with my background, including my contact information. If you have an environmental conservation group of students or faculty, anybody who would like to talk, this is your problem as much as anybody else. It's you who are going to inherit this environment. It's your generation's children that are going to inherit this environment. So not to get all Greta Thunberg-y on it, but it is something that I think your generation should be thinking about. So if you do have groups that are involved with things, please share these concerns. And I'm more than happy to be willing to work with you or anybody else who would like to continue with this. Again, I do appreciate your time, especially those who have taken their time out to meet with me individually or respond to my emails. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
A couple things tonight. The first thing I would like to do is invite Jamie Sykett. We've received some feedback because of some changes in the website, and we anticipate making some additional changes in not only the website, but actually a letter went out today from me to district faculty and staff regarding some cybersecurity issues that have become problematic across the country, really, but certainly also in school districts, municipalities, BOCES, and we're starting to take some steps and create some structures to prevent the probability that we might have problems in Oswego. And one of them was a change in the school district's directory.
Yep. Good evening. Dean asked me to come and briefly share with you a change that was made back in July. We've been talking about it since the spring, but we decided as a district to remove all staff emails from our district website. which at first can seem problematic. That's why we've discussed it for quite some time before actually moving forward with it and notifying people.
Could I
because
ask you who you discussed it with?
admin cabinet between Heidi, Carrie, and Nancy. And we discussed the idea, bounced around, what challenges it might create, because a lot of people do go to our staff directory for emails, trying to get a hold of different people. However, if you think about having a whole list of everybody's email, and then you think that 95% of cyber, specifically ransomware attacks, which are very heavily publicized in the media recently, are from staff members clicking on malicious emails, we discussed that and we said, this is one of those changes that we have to really consider. And then in July, we discussed it and we really said, yeah, it would be a good time to make that change. We notified all teachers and staff in district, and then all of admin council as well, that we were changing it. I believe it was on July 19th that we removed them.
Was the community or the parents informed?
We notified the actual teachers with the anticipation that any opening day curriculum outlines, course outlines, they would include different contact information and things like that on
Did
there.
that directive come from the administrator?
We didn't specifically say you need to include your email on that, but we did notify all staff and we notified all principals that they were getting removed from the website.
Jamie, I don't really know of another public entity that has removed, like, for instance, as a legislator, my emails are out there.
Yep.
I mean, and emails are more or less public information, so I'm not exactly sure.
Hannibal School
The
District
wisdom
has
behind
followed
it.
suit. They no longer have their staff emails. City BOCES is in the middle of a website changeover, and with their new website platform, they're intending to take their staff emails offline as well. Syracuse City School District has removed theirs, and I'm sure that there's others, but off the top of my head, those are the three that I definitely know near us that have moved this direction. And a big reason for that is because a lot of people have software. It just scans websites, and it's looking for that information to send out those fake emails. And that's ultimately why we decided to remove them. However, we also understand that there is a need for the community to reach out to us, and we do have all the phone numbers posted, but we've also, under the contact, if you hover over the contact tab, those are all of our numbers. Our directory used to be listed right down here and on every school's website. Instead of the directory, we now have a contact form, which if you look at, I know a lot of the vendors that I deal with from the technology world, a lot of them have actually taken off emails, and this is how you actually reach out to a lot of companies and vendors, at least that I deal with. If I don't have a direct contact at the company yet, I'm filling out a contact us form. And a lot of people are following suit with this for the exact reason I said, to try to prevent some of those malicious emails from coming through.
But if the parents haven't been notified of the change on the website, and the teachers have not been directed to put that in their opening day memo to parents, how are they going to know that the site has changed and it's difficult to communicate with the teachers, classroom teachers?
I have two girls that go to school at Minetto. My wife wanted to get a hold of their teacher. I said, did you call the school? I mean, honestly, I don't mean to sound rude, but I think a lot of the changes that Dean has mentioned and what we sent out today to all of our staff is that over-reliance and over-dependence on technology. We have phones. It's very easy to send an email to somebody without understanding the tone of reflection. But I don't think there's anything wrong with encouraging our parents to try to call and speak with our teachers or reach out to the schools.
The point I'm making is that you changed the process and the parents haven't been informed. That's all.
And also, isn't there like a formula to the email? So couldn't we make a list of just the names and maybe what their position is without the emails, and then have a direction as to what, it's this many letters, it's the first letter of their name, it's this many letters of their last name.
As far as you'd like a directory posted with positions and titles?
Yeah, because there's sometimes when I want to reach out to, let's say, a teacher who I'm not really even sure what their name is, and it's new and we're beginning in the year, and I can go through that directory and say, oh, there it is, middle school technology teacher.
Yep.
And I can grab it, and that way, and there is a formula to our emails, and that way you've solved the problem of the cyber right?
We
It's
can
curious.
definitely, I mean, we wouldn't have a necessarily, I wouldn't publish a formula because that's kind of the same idea as far as if it's out there, then why not just post all of them? But as far as the director, I mean, I can definitely speak with Dean more about this, about a direction to try to get maybe names with positions definitely posted. But I would, ultimately, I'll do what the board asks, but I definitely would caution and go against posting our emails on our website.
So the recommendation came from Jamie to make the change, but maybe Heidi and Carrie can help talk about the rollout, because I think one of Linda's concerns is that parents didn't know.
Okay.
And so how did it get rolled out to admin council, for example?
Sure.
So that, because ultimately it's principal's responsibility to then roll it out to their teachers, and so.
Well, and it's important. I mean, I didn't know.
Yeah,
it
me
wasn't
either.
I spent a half an
I
hour
mean,
looking for
none
it
of
the
us.
other day, yeah.
And I've used that directory multiple times over the, I mean, I've had 4 kids go through this district.
Yep.
And I've always relied on that district. Yes, they send those papers home. I'm not taking those papers and inputting or writing down those emails, because I've always known that there's a directory there. So if I need to get a hold of a
Right.
teacher, that's what I can do.
And that was, we did discuss that at admin council. I don't remember which exact month, but we did talk about it as a group to say, you know, home and school associations, they are having trouble trying to contact certain people. And we did discuss that.
And this is just adding an extra step for somebody.
Where does this go?
It is.
Who's gonna manage
So let me-
this?
Right.
This is actually kind of automatic. So if I am
Oh,
a
yeah.
community member, I can put my information here if I want a talk back or a communication back and pick the school. This then goes to, I reach out to the principals to figure out who would be the point of contact, and then they would essentially forward on the contact information. So if I was a community member, wanted to reach out to somebody in the building, get an answer, try to communicate with the middle school, with Layton, whatever it might be, they fill out their information, what the question is, submit, it goes to that contact in the building, that could then forward on.
So there's always gonna be a middle person, just as if you,
Yes,
when you call the school and you wanna talk to a teacher,
yes.
they're gonna tell you that they've gotta get a hold of the teacher and pass a message on. What is there's gonna be a ton of frustration around somebody not being able to contact a teacher, this not being passed on, phone calls not being answered. What's gonna end up happening is there's gonna be a bunch of ticked off parents out there that can't ask simple questions to a teacher because they can't email.
With our
available.
7 through 12 grades, the access is available to Jupiter grades. All of the teachers are listed and you can email through kind of a third-party vendor that way. With our K-6 building, we had talked to the principals. Did you have a question?
No, I was just just said to her, I don't think I've ever figured that out. Have you?
Oh,
And she
okay.
said no.
Jupiter grades.
Jupiter
Yeah,
grades.
how to
is-
communicate
it's-
Jupiter
sure,
grades.
It's kind of a mystery.
It's kind of, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it
Okay.
shows up every Friday, but
Yeah.
I can see that, but I can't see a lot.
So
of
if you
it.
ever click on the
I
link.
can't even get onto the Oswego website, honestly. I just tried to do it, Jamie.
Yeah. It is a really nice way. That's typically how I communicate with my son's teachers. It allows you to actually select them all or just select a few. So if you wanted to send a message to everybody, you know, my child has a doctor's appointment on Friday and is going to be out, please let me know if I can pick up work, that type of thing. Or has an orthodontist appointment in the afternoon and I just need to send it to a couple of the teachers, you can do that too. So that way you don't have to copy and paste or send the message multiple times. K-6, we had talked with the, and again, forgive me because this was a few months ago, so I'm trying to recollect, but we had talked with the elementary principals and home and school separately. We talked about it at one of our home and school presidents meeting. Problem solving with them about the best way to get information out, and we had talked about if you have a general message that needs to go out, let's say the home and school president of Fitchie Park needs to send a message to the parents' distribution list or the teacher's distribution list, they could send the message through the building secretary and they would pass that message along through. I know it can be frustrating and I do hear your concerns. It's just we're constantly weighing our security concerns and our need to be forward thinking and how we're protecting our district against the convenience of email.
Jamie, how many times has that happened where
What happened?
the concern that you're trying to prevent here?
Security's been breached.
To us, I'd rather not discuss. I do know that there has not been, to this day, a major incident like there has been, if you saw the news over the summer with Syracuse City School District, they were down for 3 weeks. I know that there have been as many ransomware attacks as there have been weeks of school. We're trying to do what we can to prevent it.
I think there's more information that Jamie would be willing to share, probably in private transmittal. The concern is that if you share some of the safety and security pieces.
I think we all understand the safety and security thing. I think my frustration and the questions that I've received from your community and your parents is that, again, they're not involved in the process. They were not informed. We've locked the doors up. Parents can't get in for a parade. Now they can't communicate with classroom teachers unless the busy secretary has a minute to forward it on, or whatever you set up there. I guess my frustration is that I hear, Jamie, that you, the superintendent, the administrators, and administrative upper elites sat together. It might have behooved you to have a couple board members, to have a couple parents, or even your home and school reps, because there's pieces missing here. And the feeling that people are getting is that parents are no longer feeling like they have a connection to our schools. So we've got to revisit this.
Okay.
There's got
And we
to
definitely
be.
can. I would just like to, I just really don't feel that, okay, I mean, we can definitely revisit it. I just would caution against bringing back that directory online.
And that's fine, and I'm sure you got wonderful information that you could share with the committee about your concerns. My concern is that when parents stand up at the podium and say that they can't partake in building activities and now they can't contact teachers or don't even know that this changed, what are we saying? You know, what are we saying? And yet we're, as a board, trying to build, one of our goals is communication.
Communication.
You know, that's one of our goals is communication. And so we've got to really dig in deep here and see what we can do.
And I think, I mean, it's great that we have you on this and that, you know, you've
Yeah.
got this recommendation. I think what Linda's saying, just to add to how you just eloquently put that, we just need maybe some problem solving and how to make that, strike that balance. And I mean, you just mentioned, let's not rely on technology. Why don't we go back to the old system of a directory in, you know, hard copy?
We do. We actually internally, we do have like.
But I'm saying,
it's
give
really
it to
different.
everybody. Let's send it out to everybody so everybody has a directory, you know, the phone book kind of thing, only with emails on it, because, you know, there are times as a parent you want to reach out some sensitive information to that teacher, and you don't want a middleman, you don't want anyone else knowing, you just want to tell the teacher, you know, hey,
Phone call's
this
not
is
okay.
going on or whatever.
Neither,
You
I would
can't
caution
control.
against some of
You-
those sensitive things being in email. I mean, it is a board
Want-
policy that those sensitive things don't belong in email.
Depending on what I'm referring
Right,
to. It
yes.
could just be my kid's having a rough day, and
Right.
I just want you to know that. Wink, wink. You know, that's certainly
Yeah.
appropriate in email.
I've done that multiple times,
Yeah.
where one of my kids has had a really rough day and just constant, and I had to go to that directory to find the teacher's email because I'm not keeping track of it. And, you know, and whether I'm on my phone, whatever.
We
And
can
this
definitely
is-
try
this
to
is
look
just
at some
frustrating.
problem solving going forward, and try to see what we want to do. And if you guys want to bring it back ultimately, we can.
I
I'll
think-
talk to Dean and try to follow up.
I think too, if you're gonna make changes like this where it's gonna affect the public to raise questions or not be able to get in contact with us, the board should know. Because we're out in the public, we get these questions, and we don't have the answers to them, right? And now,
We have no idea.
this change was made in July, it's now November, right? And we're finally just talking about it. I mean, how long does it take to have, when this was rolled out in July is when the board should have been notified of it, not several months later.
Or before it was rolled out.
Right. I mean, this is big, you know, you're making changes that are gonna affect the public, and we should know about it. That's who we represent, is the public.
Okay. I will talk to Dean and we'll
Thank you,
follow up
Jamie.
with you. Any other questions?
Okay. I wanted to just mention that last year we implemented a student behavior task force, which is a comprehensive team across the district that has teachers, all different types of teachers, elementary, middle, high, support personnel, social emotional developmental staff, administrators. And we had an all-day workshop on Friday. And the result of that workshop really was that we're at a place now where we are not admiring the problem anymore, but we're really trying to bridge the gap to some solutions. And so we determined at the end of that all-day workshop that we were going to be merging our student behavior task force with our CDAP team, which is our comprehensive district educational planning team that we started 2 years ago. Actually before that, that's the team that created the district mission and vision and ultimately the comprehensive district plan. That's the team that focused on trauma-informed learning environments as well as explicit direct instruction. And I think that now we're in a place where the work of the student behavior task force is ready to merge with that CDAP team and reconvene the CDAP team to build the work of Friday into another goal for our district around not only standardizing our approach to student management and discipline, but also an element in actually linking that to our response to intervention approach that we use in the district. We brought Julie Burrows back in. She's a behavioral educational specialist from OCSD BOE. She facilitated our work in the morning. That was very helpful. Thanks to Carrie and Lisa for helping to facilitate that. And then our teams had an opportunity in the afternoon to brainstorm and use a planning template in order to decide what were our planning goals for moving into the future. So we're going to be taking a look through our CDAP team and some members from the behavior task force to not only be looking at how to integrate student management through the RTI system, but also how to expand our trauma-informed learning environments by focusing an element on teacher and staff self-care, which we think is a really important element that we need. Staff and teachers need a venue for sharing concerns, expressing their feelings, and dealing with the day-to-day pressures that come with student management.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Minutes of the regular meeting of November 5th, 2019. Budget status report for August and September 2019. District financial statements from July 1st, 2019 to August 31st, 19. District financial statements July 1st, 2019 to September 30th, 2019. The Oswego Middle School and the Oswego High School Extra Classroom Activity Funds Report of October 2019, and Special Education Report of November 19, 2019. If I could get a motion? I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There will be no items from curriculum tonight, so we will move to personnel with Dr. Sweeney.
Sure. Our professional recommendations, 1 through 3. 1, professional staff recommendation, administrative. 2, pain and tenure date correction. And 3, extra compensatory position recommendations for Fitchie Park.
Could I have a motion, 1 through 3?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. So, regarding number 1, I have to say that we are very fortunate to be able to have Stephanie join us, both from an administrative standpoint of view and for our students. She will definitely be an asset to our program, obviously, in the district. However, I am a little concerned that, and I know the committee, and good job of the committee to coming to an end, but we had some internal candidates that applied to this position. Don't know the outcomes of them, but I know the outcome, obviously, that we're suggesting somebody else. So I'm challenging that, are we providing the right mentorship? Are we providing a path for success for internal candidates to be able to move into positions within our district? Because number one, I feel that some of the candidates that had put into it, or at least one of them that put in for the position, had run a school temporarily in some other positions or at some other times. So again, for me, I'm looking at it as, are we giving the right opportunity for administrators that are willing or coming up through that want to be involved in? Are we mentoring him? Are we giving him feedback? Are we providing him a path to success? I guess that's my biggest concern.
Yes, yes. Yeah, absolutely, Brandon. I completely understand, what you're saying, and I do think we're providing good support because we do encourage our own to want to move up into positions as they're available. We had a lot of good conversation, follow-up conversation with folks, making sure that they understood about opportunities in the future, and I just want to be careful how much I say in a public session. I completely understand what you're saying.
I just think that we need to look at our process a little bit better. That's my
Well, process you can talk about. What in particular are you referring to?
Well, I know that we've had somebody in an administrative role for, again, I'm trying to
Well, just
lead.
talk about process.
Talking about
How can process be
We've
better?
had somebody in process for over 2 years, and with her in this process.
You can't, don't talk about people or whatever, just
Got it.
process.
What is, from a process standpoint of view, are we setting our upcoming administrators within our district in a good position to fill open positions in the future?
You're
This
saying-
can be very negative to a person that is following our process that's in place and doing the things that are supposed to be being done, and at the end of the day, not getting the position, right? So obviously, when somebody doesn't get a position like that, we need to be able to give feedback, help them understand what they need to work on, but more importantly, give them the reasons why somebody else was selected. Because in my opinion, and I'm going to give my opinion, we should be supporting those within our district and encouraging them to grow within our district and within our administration. And if somebody's gone that path and they missed out on an opportunity, it can be very damaging to not only that person, but others that are in the district that are trying to follow the same path.
Brandon, as far as process goes, I'll agree with you on the fact that, yes, I think absolutely, whenever somebody's interviewed, they should be told why, specifically why they weren't chosen for that position, and maybe give them, some tips on what they need to do or whatever. So, I'm talking about process.
Process is fine. I'm good with process.
So, I agree. I think anytime that.
And I think mentoring is a big thing, right? If you're mentoring and you're getting good rapport and you're being told that you're doing all the right things, and then all of a sudden the opportunity comes up and you don't get that opportunity, it can be very frustrating and very demoralizing to that person. It's almost like, why, right? Why? So the whys can't keep going on and on and on. At some point in time, you've got to help them understand, I guess.
I would take that a step farther, and I've said for a good number of years that whenever a person applies for a position in this district, and especially if they're internal, I think internal people should have a little advantage over external, if they're qualified, if they're equally qualified. be it a custodian, a bus driver, a teacher, whatever, they go through an interview process. And I would hope that someone, either the committee, head of the committee or an administrator, would reach out to those individuals and say, you know, you did a good job, here's where you want to improve. Here's what you need to do to improve for your next interview. And I carry that through everybody that we hire in the school district, not just administrators.
Absolutely. It's good
And
feedback, it's good growth.
And I think that in this process, that was done.
Any other discussion? Could I have a motion for resolution 1 through 3? Oh, I'm
We
sorry,
already
I did the
that, so
motion.
more discussion,
All
yeah.
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, and our support staff recommendations, 4 and 5, a resignation, and our permanent appointments. Just want to point out Jeff Chetney here in the audience, warehouse coordinator, and Christina DeStevens, library clerk at the G.
Could I have a motion for resolution 4 and 5?
I'll move it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Congratulations, Jeffrey.
And 6, our substitute and temporary employees.
Motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we'll move to finance. I would ask the board to amend we would like to amend the agenda to include another resolution that was just walked in for an impartial hearing officer. If I could have a motion to amend the agenda.
Motion to amend.
Move it. Second?
I can't hear what's going on. so-
Oh, we're making
sorry.
a motion to amend so that we can include this
Heard that part.
resolution. Yeah, so that's where we're at.
Okay.
Okay.
Got a
So-
motion second. Is no discussion?
No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
I will turn it over to Nancy Squires.
Okay. So the first one is for the board to approve Martin Kehoe as an impartial hearing officer to resolve a due process complaint at an hourly rate of $100 an hour according to board policy 7670. And the reason that this was walked in is because actually at 4:21 today, we found out that we could get this impartial hearing officer. They go through a rotation,
Yeah.
and there was just no time to get this on.
So Nancy, this individual is put on a list as an impartial hearing officer and
Yep. And then Lisa Carter had called 7 of them yesterday. They have 24 hours to respond. Some had responded immediately, some had to get back to her. And after she went through that list, this person agreed to be the impartial hearing officer at 4:21 today.
Okay.
Could I have a motion, please?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The next one is a contract with EMD for our Affordable Care Act reporting at a cost of $12,000. And we have a contract with Elizabeth Toller at a rate not to exceed $1,500 for an independent educational evaluation. And the third is a contract with George Sansucci to provide valuation and consulting services for 9 Mile nuclear point negotiations. We've used Glenn Walker in the past for this, and he works for that firm. And 4 is for the board to accept a donation from Exelon for $7,500 for the fundraising for the Minetto Playground.
Motion?
Motion for those?
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Hang on, is that a grant, the 7,500, or was it
It was a donation,
an actual?
actual
That's
donation.
fantastic.
Any other discussion? Motion, or excuse me?
All those in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is the student representative discussion.
So just this weekend, several students from the music program went to Airedale Allstate for band, choir, and orchestra. And we practiced for long hours on both Friday and Saturday, with our concert on Saturday in the afternoon. and all of the concerts were really successful. Some parents said that it was one of our best concerts, so otherwise there has not been any new changes in the school.
Congratulations. That's great. I think you were one of them?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Next on the agenda is items from the board.
I have a couple just I can ask. So Nancy, on the auditor, the treasury report of the clubs, what is the student board of finance? I mean, it has a 0 balance. I'm just curious what it is.
Yeah, it sounds really fun.
No, that's fun club.
Is this for the high school or middle school?
Middle school.
I don't know, but I can find out and I'll put it in transmittal.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
The student board of finance, they have no money.
There
Right.
used, I can tell you that.
So they're not very good with their finances? Is that the case?
There used to be a board of
Spending,
finance
spending.
that had a supervisor who was a faculty
They
advisor.
teach 'em.
Board of finance, and it was led by there was a treasurer of the school. I only know this because it was my father-in-law, so we're talking a long time ago. And the board of finance was a group of kids that came together and they reviewed the financials of clubs and things. It may very well be inactive now, which is
But it's
why
still
there's
showing
nothing
okay.
in their budget.
Usually if they're inactive for 2 years, we take them off,
Yeah.
but I'll look into it.
Okay, and then, I had a message from a teacher. Oh, wait, before I get to that one. Okay, so I saw a teacher posted something on social media about looking for a music teacher. Are we looking for
Yeah.
a heater?
Yes, at
Okay.
Fisher Park. So I believe it might have been our music team leader who had maybe shared some, we've reached out to every music program in the state to find out if they have any December grads. He's reached out to a lot of his colleagues to see if we have any student teachers in the pipeline who are finishing in the next couple weeks. We do have a stopgap fix, but we're really still looking for that probationary position.
Okay. And then I had another teacher message me with and apparently on Channel 9 News, a school, and I'm drawing a blank on what school, they are using vape alarms in their bathrooms.
I saw that.
I can
Yes.
talk about that.
And the cost looks like it's, I mean, if we,
We looked at them
Yeah.
last year, we actually brought them in and tested them, and they didn't work.
oh.
Yeah, we were trying to
Well,
get
this
ahead of the
school's
curve
having a
on-
lot of success.
on
Maybe
vape
we should
alarms.
talk to them.
I don't know.
On brand.
Yeah. I saw that too, it was Channel 9, right?
Yeah, because it was a local school.
I was
district
hearing it in the
that's doing
background
it.
thinking, they must have found a better company than we tried. But
Maybe it's something we could revisit.
Did we just try a couple of them?
Better
it's
or
something
did we-
we've been, Dave Crisafulli and Pat, is Pat here?
Yeah, they
Nope.
did, they did try out a
They-
few.
Yeah.
We found one company. It wasn't a finished product. It did not work whatsoever. The other company that was recommended does not, they don't give trials. They will not ship us one to test out, and with the first one that we tested, why invest thousands of dollars if we're not going to get some,
You have to
If
sign
it's
a
not a proven
contract,
product.
for, that's what they're.
right, they want us to buy them, they won't let us try it. The company that did let us try it, it was really an unfinished product, it did not work.
But
Okay,
we've been
I think it's
looking at
something
this vape issue
worth
for about a
looking
year.
at
Yes.
because
Yeah.
it's such an issue.
Yep.
And then, can you, I'm looking at you, Nancy, just because, or Sam, whatever.
Okay.
The 100-year storm versus 50-year storm, can we get more information on that from the architect or?
Yeah, because I mean, in the few engineering classes I took in college, you always plan for the 100-year. So that was confusing to me as well, like always.
I'll get information
I
from
was-
Corey Jenner, who is our engineer.
I was gonna kind of address that a little bit, but if you're done, are you done?
Knock yourself out, I'm done.
Myself, I would take
Not
much
literally.
tonight, believe me. That good sorts. I wanted to respond to Mr. McKenzie and talk a little bit about the meeting that we had with he and we had Cody Jenner, who was and the architect there at the meeting. And I applaud Mr. McKenzie's passion. He feels very passionate about this, and that's a good thing. There should be more people like him in this world. A lot of information came out of that meeting, but nothing definitive one way or another. So I think what this board is up against right now, first of all, a couple of things. The community voted for a turf field, so I don't know how we can get around that. We can still do a turf field, but one of the things that Mr. McKenzie's brought forth is the infill that goes into the turf field. Our architect has recommended a crumb rubber fill. There are some artificial, right word, Jim?
Organic,
Pardon me?
organic, natural.
Organic, that's
Sand,
correct.
cork, coconut husks.
Yeah.
Love the coconut husks.
But there's some negatives to those. None of them have been tested. I'm sure they're not carcinogen, but you know, what else? So I think what we need to do is, Dean, administration, we need to nail down when our drop dead date is. We need to get more information to the board, like Kathleen's asking about the floods. We need to get Corey and our architect back here to talk to the whole board, because there was only 3 of us, Linda and Tom and I, and we're not making the decision for the whole board. So I think in Rhonda, we need more input from Rhonda, and I would hope from the coaches that have field sports, feedback from them.
Yeah, it would be nice to get pros and cons of all of the choices,
I do
and then
too.
cost analysis as well. Would be
I do
really
too.
fantastic so that we can
But
really approach this.
Mr. McKenzie was upfront and honest, and he said, I'm not gonna say it will, but I can't say it won't. And his words, I would rather err on the side of caution.
Right.
So I think before we move forward, we need to do some more
I appreciate that, yeah.
legwork. And I don't think we can wait until the first of the year. I think something has to happen before then. And if that means a special board meeting just to come in to deal with this issue, then so be it.
Okay, so what would be the best way to go about getting all of that information? Because I could say, if we go to the people, you know, our vendors, for instance, they're obviously going to weight it one way.
We're not gonna go to the vendors. What we would go to is Corey Jenner, who's the engineer. He actually is very knowledgeable about all of the alternate infills for turf fields. And he's done some, he's compared some of the other districts. I believe in New York, or I can't remember whether he said New York or statewide, there are only maybe 1 or 2 fields that use an alternate infill. All of the rest have the rubber crumb fill.
So,
And there are pros and cons for each.
right, and that doesn't make it wrong for us to do
Correct.
it, because, you know, maybe everybody else is making a mistake, so.
What it's gonna come down to, Heather, after the entire board here's Jim's side of the story and here's Corey's, it's still gonna, neither one of them are gonna say yes.
Right.
Or
We
no.
make it, I mean,
So
we're
it's
elected
gonna-
to
it's
give
gonna
our
be a
best
board-
judgment.
Board decision.
We can bring Corey and Craig in on the December board meeting to do a presentation. They can talk not only about, lay out the cost options, but also the pros and cons of using organic versus what the proposed infill.
And
And then you can have a conversation about it.
that's another issue that plays into it, is the cost. Because
Right.
go to these organic infills, cost gets more, we've only got X number of dollars in the budget, so if you're
So
gonna
you
put
think
more
we can have
money.
that at the next meeting?
I think we can do it in December.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I got it.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I
You're in the
was
middle
done.
of finishing your thought.
I'm done.
Would there be any other items from the board?
I just wanted to thank Rhonda for the information for the APP, and I encourage, did you send it to everyone or just the folks in the subcommittee?
The people on the committee.
Okay, do you mind if I forward that to everybody, so everybody has the information? Because I think the process is gonna be, is everyone still on board for the 21st? Please read that, I found that to be very, very interesting as to what it's supposed to be in the process. And then, we're gonna need to, put it through policy. Are we still doing that prior to that meeting in
Yep.
December?
If you
Okay,
guys
and then
are
we'll vote
ready.
on it as a
Yep.
board, so, okay.
I got one last thing. As you guys know, 2020 is the next census, and we all have to figure out and fill out your form when the time comes up, but making it very simple now. We found out 10 years ago, a lot of information was not reported correctly, and money is being left on the table. Collaborative-wise, we've been working with Nancy, the county has, and Nancy's given a lot of information where the district's involved with that. So it's money really that impacts no fault of the school district, but when we under-report, that's what a lot of our dollar figures are based on. So it's important if you know people. The census is hiring people right now. They're doing everything they can to report correctly because the city of Oswego was one of the areas targeted that was underreported in 2010. So that's just my push out there, is because it does impact even our dollars when we have to deal with budgeting and such. So. But Nancy's gotten a lot of figures to us, and I passed that on to the others, and they're sharing that big report they're putting together. So.
The Oswego County Board is going to have another small committee meeting, and we're going to be discussing whether we want to go to Albany with the rest of the county, and so I'll have to bring feedback on that. They wanted to again thank our board. We had a great turnout, and you know, so I'll be sending an email out to get a feel for who would participate if we decide to do that.
Is this in response to the suggestion that that's the most effective approach, which is to wear matching shirts and be on the steps of
Yes.
Capitol?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Are the shirts supposed to say something? I saw the email. Are the shirts, I mean, is it supposed to be like a t-shirt that says something on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was surprised by that suggestion, but they
Oh,
said
people
that is the
organized.
most
Yeah.
effective.
Yeah.
So who's
Get noticed.
spearheading that?
Donna.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
She's the head of the Oswego County. Yeah. So she's a go-getter.
Any other items from the board? Would there be a need for executive session tonight?
Will be, yes.
Okay.
Yes. for
Reason?
2 reasons, pending litigation and negotiations.
Okay, could I have a motion, please?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And would there be a need for a vote after executive session? You may adjourn to executive session.
We're going to stay put.